Miles the Monster was very kind to the Truex family this weekend, and Ross Chastain continues to make enemies. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove Monday race recap, folks. I hope you've had a wonderful day. I hope you were able to sneak a peek of the race, whether you're at school or at work. But in case you weren't, I'm glad you're here because we're gonna recap the whole thing. First and foremost, a quick reminder, we are selling t-shirts like the one I'm wearing at dailydownforce.com/shop. There are still die-cast pre-orders available as well. Be sure to check that out. Really excited for Darlington, now less than 2 weeks away. Really appreciate the support, y'all. But first, let's talk about Dover Motor Speedway. Man, I do feel bad for the Dover, Delaware fans. The 2019, 2022, and now 2023 spring races have all at least partially been postponed to Monday. And I know now, of course, Dover only has this one date, so I do feel really bad for the fans up in Delaware who've had to suffer through weather delay after weather delay after weather delay. But it looked like many fans still turned out today, which was awesome to see, and I think they saw a great race. We'll put this race on the groovy gauge at the end of this episode. We'll discuss the notable finishers as well as the race winner in just a few moments, but we have to begin with Ross Chastain, the showstopper. I have been accused of being both a Ross Chastain fanboy and a Ross Chastain hater, so I think I'm doing this right. I approach every incident as objectively as I possibly can. Today, early in this race, stage 1, Ross Chastain was involved in yet another on-track controversy. This time, while racing inside the top 5, Ross Chastain got into the back of Brennan Poole, who was battling with Austin Dillon for position, 1 lap down. Poole went spinning, collected Kyle Larson, who was charging hard in the opening stage, had driven up into the top 5, looked to have one of the better cars in the field. Larson wrecked out, Poole wrecked out. Brennan Poole got out of his car, this was his first cup race in like 2 or 3 years, and told Fox that Ross Chastain needs to get his butt whooped. So, not mincing words. Kyle Larson was frustrated over the radio, and we saw later in this race, Larson went out of his way to kind of block Ross Chastain when Chastain was battling for the win. Ross Chastain went on to finish second in this race, and when he got out of his race car, Fox Sports stopped him for an interview. Chastain immediately apologized to Brennan Poole, Rick Ware Racing, didn't say anything about Kyle Larson, but once again, you had Ross Chastain owning up to his mistake, but time will tell if he actually learns from it. Because we've seen this song and dance before. This is not the first time. This isn't the second. This is maybe not even the third. This is the 4th or 5th time Ross Chastain has at least partially, if not fully, owned up to perhaps an over-aggressive mistake. And yet this cycle keeps happening. It is just that. It is a cycle, a never-ending downward spiral. My boy Emp Lemon would be proud. Ross Chastain is not a bad guy. That's the thing. He's not mean or malicious. He's the product of his environment. Growing up, coming through the NASCAR ranks, he had to scratch and claw for every opportunity, every chance. And he's grown up in a winner-take-all era of NASCAR that rewards winning above all else. He doesn't race like this because he's a bad guy. He's just extremely impatient. That's one skill that he has not learned. That is one area as a race car driver that he has not yet matured. And it's frustrating because his mistakes continue to impact other drivers and other teams. We've joked the past few weeks, and even Fox Sports joked about it today, that, we blame Ross Chastain for everything. And yeah, sometimes we do unfairly blame Chastain for things. Like when Christopher Bell called out Chastain at the end of the Richmond race. That was unfair, that was incorrect. Bell later apologized, admitted his mistake. But there are still enough incidents that are clearly Chastain's fault that no, he does not deserve the benefit of the doubt. Go back a few weeks ago to Atlanta when he spun out Kevin Harvick. A lot of folks were saying, oh no, he didn't actually touch Harvick, it was just the air. And I said, no. We saw guys bump drafting in the corner all day. Why is it when Chastain got behind someone that they spun? It may be something small, but no, Ross Chastain does not deserve the benefit of the doubt for that incident. He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt ever again, as far as I'm concerned, or it's gonna take months, if not years, for him to earn that credibility back if he ever had it to begin with. As a neutral fan, I love Ross Chastain. He gives us something to talk about every week. He's one of the few drivers left in the sport that has a clear, distinct driving style. Like stage 1, he made 3 wide moves around the outside on back-to-back restarts and made it work. You don't see other drivers in the Cup Series making those moves. I love the Melon Man branding. I love what Trackhouse stands for. There's a lot to like about Ross Chastain. It's the impatience. It's the constant mistakes and then the constant apologies that do begin to get old. If I was a fan of a particular driver, especially a specific driver who'd been wronged by Chastain on maybe more than one occasion, I'd be sick and tired of the Melon Man act. He needs to refine that aggression or he's going to continue to make enemies. And at some point, eventually, one of those enemies is going to snap in a way that costs Ross Chastain significantly. First segment, I'm already heated. Let's talk about the race winner. Some more positive, lighthearted news. Martin Truex Jr. snaps a 54 race winless streak. I should specify, points races. He did win the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum a few months ago. His first points win though since Richmond fall of 2021. So happy for Martin Truex Jr. Happy for James Small. We criticized Small a few weeks ago for how Richmond played out. He had to send Truex out there on scuffs. Truex didn't know he was on scuffs. Small didn't communicate that with him. They went backwards. They argued back and forth. We criticized the pairing then. I want to compliment both Truex and James Small today because James Small, aggressive when he needed to be. Sent Truex out on 2 tires to ensure he would hold on to the race lead. Crucial, ever important track position. Ross Chastain on 4 tires was able to go from 4th to 2nd in the final 7 laps. But right side tires, as we saw most of the day, made enough of a difference, at least in the short run, that Truex, with that clean air especially, was able to maintain his track position. Good call by James Small. I liked it at the time, although I was nervous. Happy to see it work out. Martin Truex Jr., I predicted before the season began that Martin Truex Jr. was due for a bounce back year. I know he went winless last season, missed the playoffs, but they were close several times, especially late in the season, to breaking through and getting that win. I figured this year, their luck, that narrative had to turn around somewhat. Martin Truex Jr. on the board with the dub in the first third of the season. Happy for Truex. The entire Truex family, because his brother Ryan, Saturday, at long last broke through and won his first NASCAR race. He won the Xfinity Series event, also driving the Joe Gibbs number 19, ironically. Really great weekend for the Truex family, and Martin had to overcome a lot today. Yeah, he had one of the best cars, especially over the long run, but early on, an issue on pit road knocked him back to 20th place. Took him a while to get that track position back, but once he did, he never relinquished it. So congratulations to Martin Truex Jr. He was my pick to win this weekend, so double thumbs up from me. A big day for Joe Gibbs Racing all around if we look at the top finishers right here. Denny Hamlin 5th, Christopher Bell 6th, and Ty Gibbs, I know he finished 13th. They didn't get his car full of fuel on the final green flag stop. He fell a lap down trying to save. Still gets a top 15 finish, but really all 4 Gibbs drivers at least deserved top 6 finishes. That's where they were running before Gibbs's team made the mistake. Decent finishes for Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace as well. So actually all 6 Toyotas finished this race in the top 13. Early on, this looked like a Hendrick Motorsports day, or at least a William Byron day. He won stage 1, he led the most laps in today's race, but in stage 3, he faded and faded fast. Still came back to finish inside the top 5, but without that final caution for Joey Logano, no, Byron was going to finish, I think, around 7th or 8th, which was shocking considering the early speed. Josh Berry, Chase Elliott, right around the top 10. Kyle Larson was fast before he got caught up in the Ross Chastain-Brennan Poole crash, but credit to Josh Berry. I know it's not a second like Richmond a few weeks ago, but in my opinion, this was arguably his most impressive Cup Series performance. I mean, at one point there were only like 10, 11, 12, 13 cars on the lead lap, and Josh Berry was one of them. I know he's driven the 9 car for a few weeks now, but this was his first time in the 48 with Blake Harris, the Ally team. So I was really impressed that Josh Berry managed to run between like 9th and 12th, really start to finish today. Both RFK Fords finished inside the top 10, and that's where they ran all race long. Brad Keselowski had an issue on pit road, an uncontrolled tire that put him back outside the top 30, but he worked his way forward. Cracked the top 20, then the top 10. It was tough to pass out there, but at times Brad Keselowski made it look easy. Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing has been a very fun team to watch this year. They have not won a race, but both their drivers are inside the top 16 in points, and they're just showing top 10 speed week in, week out. Outside of some of the weirder tracks like the Clash at the beginning of the year, they both missed the show once again. The Bristol Dirt was not great. But at the more traditional oval tracks, at least, the 17 and the 6 are always top 10 in speed. I want to shout out Corey LaJoie and Ricky Stenhouse sneaking into the top 15. That's where they ran pretty much all day. Both those teams have had a little more pep in their step this year. The 47 team, obviously, after winning the Daytona 500, they've been good. They're also top 16 in points. Great start to this season. Ryan Blaney gets a top 5. He raced Martin Truex Jr. really hard, but really clean on that final restart. Got a great jump from that inside lane. Had a chance to just keep his foot in the gas, run both himself and Truex potentially up into the wall. Likely would have opened the door for Chastain to squeak by on the inside, but Ryan Blaney, he's a fair racer. Lifted, knew he didn't have the position, still comes home a very respectable third. He's also sitting on a 56 race winless streak, I believe, points races, so a win today would have meant a lot, but a solid top 5 is still really good considering his Penske teammates struggled for the second year in a row. Joey Logano last year was terrible. Today he may have been even worse. They were cording tires in practice, and that issue did not stop throughout this race, I guess until, 14 laps to go when he spun out and the right front caught fire. Just a rough weekend for Joey Logano, rough weekend for Austin Cindric as well. And not a Penske driver, but also a rough day for Kyle Busch, a day that started with so much promise. He was on the pole because qualifying was rained out, defending race winner, had a fast lap, good in points. Kyle Busch on the pole, led the first 20 laps, and then sped on pit road the first time down pit road. Driver mistake, he leads the series with 4 speeding penalties, credit Fox for that stat. Just unforced errors that you cannot keep making. And he paid for it today because back in traffic, gets caught up in a big wreck, gets some splitter damage, looked to be okay actually even with that significant damage, drove his way back up into the top 15 until for whatever reason Randall Burnett decided to leave him out there on old tires at a track that everyone was concerned about eating tires, cording tires. They decided to leave Kyle Busch long and he faded badly over the course of a long run. Not only fell outside the top 15, the top 20, but fell off the lead lap, lost the free pass spot to his own teammate. At that point, Kyle Busch's race was over because then it was long green flag runs, never got a chance to get the free pass. Kyle Busch finishes 21st in this race, and it all goes back to the driver making a mistake on pit road, and then the crew chief employing a bold, perhaps not well thought out, tire strategy. And also real quick, I have to mention this, I hate to pick on this team, but a couple weeks ago at Martinsville, I gave Stewart-Haas Racing some praise. For the first time in a long time, all 4 of their cars looked good. Looked like legit top 5 contenders. Now, they squandered some great opportunities at Martinsville. Priest sped on pit road, Harvick's team left a lug nut loose, Briscoe's team employed just the wrong tire strategy at the end. SHR ended up with only 1 top 5 at Martinsville, but I at least praised the speed. Progress. They were back to their old infamously slow selves today. Kevin Harvick, around 12th, was the only remotely competitive Stewart-Haas Racing Ford all day today, until he faded late. I didn't see Ryan Preece or Eric Almirola once. Chase Briscoe was outside the top 30. Just a disaster right now from Stewart-Haas Racing, and I know there are a lot of rumors, a lot of rumblings going around, but it's not a disaster that one driver, a new driver, can just come in and fix, in my opinion. Anyway, those are your top finishers. Let's move on. I thought it was a really good race today. I hate that these Dover races keep getting rained out to Monday. I'm not familiar with the Northeast. Is this a notoriously rainy season for Dover, Delaware? I mean, it's spring. April showers bring May flowers. I think typically these are rainy months for most regions of the country. But is this like an exceptionally wet month for Dover? Because it seems to be anytime NASCAR's in town, at least. I'm not sure what can be done to the schedule. Is there a place they can move Dover maybe a little later into the summer where it's a little drier, less likelihood of another rain out? Because again, the fans, they don't deserve this, especially now that Dover only gets 1 Cup weekend a year. It's a shame that it's been a wash the past 2 seasons. A lot of fans were able to make it out today. I heard some reports that security lines, parking lines were really long today, which if that is true, shame on SMI for not having the proper staffing to maintain a Cup Series crowd. Yes, it's a Monday, not everyone's gonna come back, but it's still a Cup race. You're gonna get a big crowd. Shame on SMI if they really did cut back on staffing significantly for this race. That's a shame. But the crowd seemed into it. I've never been to Dover, but it's always been on my bucket list, one I definitely want to check out. Great race today. Let's put it on the groovy gauge. I'm gonna go 80%. A lot of long green flag runs, sure, but it felt like the leader never really got away, and drivers, sometimes randomly it felt, would fade late in runs. Like William Byron dominated the first half of this race and suddenly he was vulnerable, began fading fast. I don't think the leader ever had more than like a 1.5 second lead today, so even though it was tough to pass, especially in clean air, with lap traffic, with green flag pit strategy, the lead was almost always in jeopardy. So that kept things interesting. I think for the most part, FS1's commentary, Mike Joy, Clint Boyer, Rusty Wallace this week, was really good. I liked Rusty. I thought he was a nice addition, somewhat nostalgic, but also had some good insight. I'd have liked to see this race play out under green with Chastain and Truex kind of out by themselves, but in lap traffic. That was really dramatic, but it kind of ended with that anyways. You had Blaney, had a shot at it, but then it came down to Truex trying to hold off Chastain, and Ross just didn't have enough time for his newer tires perhaps to really make the difference. I'm giving this race an 80%. Really enjoyed it. One of the better Dover races I can remember in recent memory. Not perfect by any means. Would have liked to seen the groove widen out a bit more, but overall a very competitive race. Some memorable moments, some controversy for sure. I'm gonna give it an 80. Pretty darn good. Let me know what kind of score you would give today's Dover race, the Worth 400, down in the comment section below. And let me know how your favorite driver did. Do you think my assessment was accurate? Always love hearing what you guys have to say after these races, but I think that's gonna do it. Forgot to mention the Daniel Suarez wreck. He acted like maybe a tire was going down or something. It looked like the car just snapped loose on him exiting the corner. Unfortunate early end to his race. Suarez started the year off red hot. Remember, 3 straight top 10s. He was vying for the overall points lead. He only has 1 top 10 now the past 7, 8 races. Needs to get things back on track. Also a hard rear impact for Ty Dillon on the inside safer barrier. You got a good view of the new rear ends, the newly reworked rear ends, crumbling a little bit better, caving in slightly better than last year, not being quite as rigid or as stiff. Heard that Ty Dillon was checked and released from the infield care center. I hope he's okay, because that's the kind of impact that last year might have raised some eyebrows, caused some concern. I think it still causes concern today, but hopefully Ty Dillon is all right and we'll be able to race next week and going forward. No problems, but just wanted to mention that real quick. Anything else? I think I've touched on everything that needed to be touched on. Thanks for watching, y'all. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like, greatly appreciate. If you're new to the channel and you love NASCAR, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you to my Patreon supporters for your very generous support. Again, you can get your podcast Party Bus t-shirts. Right now, they've already begun shipping, so if you order it today, you will receive it likely in the next few days, well in advance of the Darlington Goodyear 400 coming up in a couple of weeks. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for the support. I will see you again very soon. Take it easy, y'all.